Good morning, everybody. In this song, we're going to be talking about joy, perfection, happiness as leaders, how that impacts how we show up. Give people a little few minutes to come on in, join me today. We're going to make some magic happen this morning on the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show, live on KCOH TV Radio, The Boost.
Hey, whoever that is, I'm just glad to see somebody. My first day back on Facebook. I'm going to use it on Lord.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is Tuesday morning, April 19th, 2022. We are here on the corner of Alameda and Wichita at the historic KCOH TV Radio, The Boost in Houston, Texas, historic 3rd Ward. We just got history all over the place. We are our ancestors' dream here in Houston, Texas. Thank you for being here on the show, the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show live. I am so excited to be here. As always, it's one of my favorite days. It is a day that does give me joy. We're going to be talking about that today. Joy, perfection, happiness, contentment, all that kind of stuff as leaders and how that impacts how we show up. But first, vote. Can you see? I got on this white shirt today, so you can't really see my pen, my vote pen, but I got it on, my vote pen. I got it on. So, first, Alaska, you have a recall election happening today. Palmer, Alaska, recall election. California, your state assembly, District 17, y'all are voting today. District 17, California, state assembly. Missouri, you have a special election for your board of aldermen, Ward 28, that's in Missouri. And then New Jersey, okay, this is the most critical one, y'all. All of them are important. Every vote counts. Every vote is important. But this one, New Jersey, Newark Public Schools elections. Newark Public School. I need y'all in Newark to get out and vote, right? To get out and vote. Please vote. These school board elections, assembly elections, whatever you call them in your state, they are critical. Oklahoma had a ton of them. I need to go back and see what happened. These school board elections are so important. I would argue they're some of the most important that we have, right? These local, it starts local, but of those local, yes, you got the councilman, you got the mayor, you got a school board. Because see, what happens is people run for school boards because they think nobody's watching. And then once they're on the school board, then they'll run for city council. And then once they're on city council, then they'll run for mayor. Once they're in mayor, then they're looking at governor. Then, so that's kind of like the school board is like the entry point to politics for people. So you need to pay attention to who's getting on your school board. You need to pay attention to who's getting on your school board. We also need to pay attention that just like with everything, and I use that intentional, with everything, there are exceptional people and there are people who really need to find something else to do. Our teachers have been under so much pressure and so much craziness. I hope that now that we're trying to come out of this pandemic, and I won't even get started on lifting this mask mandate this morning. Now that we're coming out of this pandemic, I hope we don't forget all of the work that teachers do. I hope you parents don't forget that now that you had to spend all their time with your kid, that's the same kid that's been showing up at school that your teachers have been dealing with as opposed to you, right? I hope we don't forget our teachers as we go back. These people who actually, in many cases, are having to do more training, more in-service days, more recertifications, have higher levels of degrees than many, many people in many other professions. And yet, one, we don't pay them enough to be not only the educators that we expect them to be, but in some cases, the babysitters they end up having to be, right? But we also don't give them amount of respect that's needed with the education that they have to do their job. They are experts in curriculum and instructional design. We have them go to school to learn that. Now, again, there are some teachers that even teachers know need to be out of the classroom, right? So we all have them. Every company has them. Every organization has them. The people that really don't need to be there, of course. But the majority of teachers, the majority of people who are there trying to instruct your kids and be sure that they are building the generations for tomorrow, these people who are going to be making decisions for us as we get older, they are digging deep, right? They have had to become their own IT people, right? They've had to do all kinds of stuff like all of us had, pardon me, except, no, that's not COVID. Except that they have had to do it under some really interesting circumstances, not only trying to take care of their families, but trying to take care of your kids as well. So make sure that you are electing people to your boards of your school boards and school elections that are reasonable people, that have an understanding of, let me understand what's going on before I make this decision to ban a book or to decide what's going to be taught, because I don't know what needs to be taught because I'm not a teacher. Now, again, if you are a parent and you are so concerned about what's being taught in your schools, that's why they make homeschools. You can go to a parochial school, you can go somewhere else, but this public school education that is supposed to be broad and deep, it is supposed to be educating our leaders of tomorrow. The more we narrow that and the more we dumb that down, the more we're going to be, we're going to act surprised when stuff falls all off the rails like it is now, right? So please pay attention to your school board elections. Those are critical elections. Please pay attention to those. Speaking of, I also need you guys to be watching out for your libraries. I love a library. I need to renew my library card, as a matter of fact. I love a good library. Just the smell of real books. Right now, I'm an audiobook person and I'm a Kindle person, because when I travel, I used to take 3 or 4 books. So it gives me a chance to take all my books right in one thing. So it's a thing of convenience. Not because I don't like hardcover and hard copy books. But there's an attack starting again on libraries, right? Censorship and all this in libraries. They showed some pictures of some libraries with like no books on the shelf. Y'all, centers of free speech, centers of education. Please, y'all, support your local library. Let's be careful about what we're trying to ban. And if you see a book that's banned, I need you to go find it and read it. Even Stephen King said that. If they're trying to ban it, there's something in there that they don't want you to know. There is something in there that they don't want you to know. Go read. Read a broad scope of things. Go read things that are contrary to what you believe. And at least go understand somebody else's perspective. You can still keep your beliefs, and you should. But maybe there's something in somebody else's perspective that it may soften your edges or may give you something to think about that say, oh, you know what? I didn't have all the information, so maybe I need to change that. Okay? Go get registered. If you're 18, time to get registered. If you are registered but have some people in your family who aren't, go take them to go register. Right? Get educated on the process in your state, city, county. Know what your ballot is. Go to Ballotpedia and get the ballots early so you can know what's going to be on the ballot. Good morning, Jenny. That's going to be on the ballot. Make sure you understand what's going to be on the ballot. Go understand who the candidates are, what their positions are, right? Because there are a lot of people now who are running for stuff who've never done anything. Never done anything, but why not? They saw what happened before, so they figure if I just want it, I can do it. There is still such a thing as experience being valuable. Now, there's also such a thing as you being in something too long. We've got a lot of that sitting in Washington, right? Sometimes you've just been in a job too long. It's time to go do something else and let somebody else in. But there is such a thing as experience, right? So please pay attention to who's running, pay attention to their positions, understand what they're trying to do, right? And where they're going to come down and what that means for you. So go get educated. When we get closer to things, I will absolutely share my opinion. But right now, I just want you to get registered because there are people who worked really hard for you to be able to do that. So go get registered to vote. Please go get registered to vote. All right. I hope I locked my car. That's that messy mind thinking, right? I just all of a sudden hit me. I'm like, I hope I locked my car. Okay. So this Thursday, Fireside is continuing. Alignment, Vision, Action. My show on Fireside, Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central. This week, I have a guest. His name is Ash Merchant. He is an executive advisor and coach, all focused on leadership, diversity, and really, really heavily focused on understanding how you build and develop relationships to become the leaders that you need to be, and to also be able to drive not only personal development results, but business results through those relationships. And so we're going to talk about how we get aligned and get clear with all of that on Fireside, Thursday, 7 p.m. So if you do not have access to Fireside yet, go to Fireside Chat. That's all run together, firesidechat.com. facebook.com/Laurel Rutledge. And so that way you can get in, they'll let you in. Do it now because they're vetting everything. They're trying to really make sure they keep a safe space for creators. No, they're not censoring people, but they are making sure that people are real, that you are a real person, and that it's not a bot, so they really are vetting the people that sign in. So please go early, like today, and try to get Fireside and get signed up. If you are not on an iOS device, then you can still listen. It'll also be on my YouTube channel. I'll be simulcasting on my YouTube channel, and that is the Rutledge Perspective. So you can see the show there and listen and watch there because Fireside is audio and video. And if you are an iOS device, I definitely would like you to sign up because then you can get as part of the audience and we can engage. So you can ask questions, you can raise your hand, you can make comments, all of that kind of stuff. Engage with me and with the guest when I have one. So again, Fireside this Thursday, that is the 21st, I believe, 7 p.m. Central Time on Fireside. You'll see my producer, Jenny, there too. She comes in and helps me out and make sure I'm watching the audience. So that's coming up. You're also going to see some website refreshes, about to get really clean and simple. So doing that. So lots of really good stuff coming. And for those of you who are on my email list and are following, going to be revamping all that too. So you might get some new opt-in things, and feel free to opt out at any time. But there's going to be some changes there coming too. So reminds me, seeing your name, Jenny, I got to ask you about something. So revamped website that's coming is still laurelrutledge.com, but just going to clean that up and simplify it. Fireside, join me on Fireside. The new podcast drops tomorrow. So the new episode will drop tomorrow as soon as I record it. It will drop tomorrow, so you'll have it. And theirs are always short and sweet. So no matter what you need, I got you. We're sitting here chatting for an hour on Tuesday mornings, 10 a.m. I got you. If you just need short, sweet on your commute, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, podcast, listen to it whenever, I got you. If you want to engage, you want to ask questions, you have comments, all this kind of stuff, join me on Fireside. I got you. And in all of these cases, for the radio show and the Fireside, there's also replays. So there will be replays. You can get it if you can't join live. You can actually get it. And I'd love to have you and have your comments. And please send me a DM, send me a note. Hey, Laurel, would you talk about this? What do you think about that? And we'll talk about it. All right. Let's dive in. So it hit me over the weekend, this whole idea of joy. And I think I posted on Monday, what if we spend as much time pursuing joy as we do pursuing perfection, or something like that. I never can remember what I say exactly. And that whole idea of joy, happiness, contentment, especially as leaders, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And I've always said, my goal is contentment. I want to be content. I don't want to be happy. I want to be content because happiness is fleeting. And so I did some of my own reading, right, in research and education, and was reading a bunch of articles about happiness versus contentment and joy versus happiness and contentment. And it confirmed kind of this perspective I've always had, which is, happiness tends to be external. Something happened and it made us happy. I'm happy to see you. I'm not happy about that, right? There's something that occurs that makes us happy or unhappy. It is a feeling in the moment. It is a response, right? Happiness is a response to something. Whereas if you think about being content or being joyful, those are states of being. It's a choice, right? I'm just content. I am really content with my life. That means that in general, I feel really good about what is going on around me, with me, for me, against me, all that kind of stuff. I'm feeling in a really, really good space. It is internally driven. So even when things don't make me happy, things occur that are difficult, I am generally content with my state of being. And it's the same thing with joy. There are also choices, right? But joy, one of the articles I read said joy is a practice, kind of like practicing gratitude, practicing joy, being joyful. This morning, actually, I was listening to Joyce Meyer as well, and she's talking about, mercy and grace and how we just have it, right? We're just God's mercy is infinite, and I am a woman of faith, and so God is my thing. So whatever your thing is, but that joy is deeply tied, right, to that walk, deeply tied to that knowing, that practice of being joyful, grateful, having compassion for things, right? Being of service to others, that general joy, like they say, make a joyful noise, since we're out, I'm just finishing Easter, right? Make a joyful noise. And when you think about happiness, contentment, joy, and leadership, the thing that happens that really jumped up for me, because I'm always thinking about you guys, leadership being about behavior, not about position. Always thinking about you guys and how I can serve. And I went back to how I would show up some days, right? Very unhappy about some things, very irritated about some things. And when I look back, I was also I was not content at all. I was not content with the state of being. I most certainly didn't have joy, right? It was toxic for many, many years, toxic. And so while I could be pleasant and there were times when I was happy, I was very much sitting in that space of reacting to whatever the external things were. There wasn't that internal grounding, that seating, that alignment that I could be content, that I could be joyful. And what happens is, because especially when you are a leader and in a leadership position, there are people looking to you. There's always somebody watching anyway, but there are people looking to you when you're in a certain position for you to exude whatever this thing is, whatever they expect you to exude, right? Because it's not always about you, it's about them and about their perception. And so I knew that feeling of always like having that mask on, and I don't mean about putting your mask on first, self-care. I mean always showing up where I gotta pretend. I gotta put the mask on. I gotta pretend I want to be here. I gotta pretend that I care about this stuff. I gotta pretend that I'm a kind person when I respond to this madness that I've just experienced, right? Pretending. Because what was driving me was happiness or unhappiness. Because I wasn't at all content, and I most certainly wasn't joyful. And so if you're a leader and all you're doing is thinking about how happy you are and unhappy, and those words we use, right? That doesn't make me happy. I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy that happened, right? Or people say, "Ooh, they're not happy. They're not going to be happy." All of that, if you think about words, because words matter, those connect to something that has happened. Happiness connected to something that happened, right? So we are driven about how we respond because of something that occurred. Whether or not we were involved in it or just happened to us, right? It's that external thing that then can impact whether we are happy or unhappy. And the challenge with that is, it really is a challenge with control. You're giving up all your control when you are waiting on something else to make you happy, when whatever is occurring has such power to change your mood, right? And to turn you on or off. And so as leaders, how can we sit more into that contentment or that joy, as opposed to sitting in that happiness or unhappiness, right? And it's not about disappointed, because that's a whole different kind of emotion, right? That being deeply disappointed in something, that's deep seated. That happiness or unhappiness is so surface. It's so surface. And I never used to think about this when I was younger, but that happiness or unhappiness is such a surface kind of emotion, and is so heavily impacted externally, that what kind of control then do we have? Because most of that stuff that happens, we have very little control over. What we do have control over is our pursuit of contentment, our pursuit of joy, right? Our continued practice of joy and gratitude. We have control over that. And there is a calm, almost every article that I read, every study that I read, referred to contentment and joy with the words about calm and peace. That when you are content, there is a calmness about your demeanor. Again, it doesn't mean you're happy all the time or you're thrilled with everything that's going on, but there is a peace and ability to manage through and navigate through whatever circumstances you're in, because you're coming from this foundation of calm. You're generally content. You're generally joyful. And that calmness and that peace enables you to move forward to address whatever it is that's coming at you. And I notice for me that if I don't pay attention, I will sit in that happiness or unhappiness. I'm ride or die with happy or unhappy if I'm not paying attention. When we get really, really busy, we tend to get more and more surface, right? That's why you hear people talk about their practices, right? That really successful people have kind of these morning routines. And where do you start your morning? What do you put in the morning, right? So I try to do a meditation every morning before I do anything else. I try to do that. And I've not been as disciplined as I need to be with that for a number of reasons. But I need to get more disciplined because my day is different. It's different when I start with that kind of grounding, that peace, that reminder that there's something deeper. I am able to lead better. I'm able to have a better conversation with people. I'm able to be much more open and listen more actively when I am at a place of peace and contentment. Not happiness, contentment. Because there are still things that make me unhappy. There are still things that make us sad, right? When we are unable to be there for people that we really want to be there for. When it's just not possible to be there physically, right? We can still be there spiritually, emotionally, in our hearts, right? With family and dear friends. It is hard. Those things make us unhappy. When we buy tickets and don't win the lottery, those things make us unhappy. But if we have a level of grounding around contentment, our ability to show up and really lean into our leadership, our behavior that reminds us that it's not about us, it's about the other person, then we don't lead with that happiness or unhappiness. And we haven't created a culture around us where people are so worried about making you unhappy or keeping you happy. That's how you create yes people. That's how you create environments where you don't get the truth. That bad news does not travel fast. Because I always say good news travels fast. Bad news should travel faster so that you can respond and make adjustments. But if people are so worried about whether or not they're making you happy or unhappy, right? They're nervous. They don't know what to say. They may not engage. You get yes people. You get a filtering of the truth. I said, I don't even remember the conversation. I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, oh, it was on Saturday. And I said, people forget that even shiny, beautiful apples have worms. And so if you are really content, no matter what your exterior looks like, people know on the inside you're good. And so they may be okay with dealing with that crunchy exterior because they know that your intent is good. Your intent is pure. You've got a servant attitude, right? You have their best interest in mind, not just your own. They know that. And that is so important as leaders. And if we sit in that happiness or unhappy and we use that language, that doesn't make me happy. The customers aren't happy. The clients aren't happy. Our people aren't happy. Happy. One, you can't make everybody happy. It's not possible to make everybody happy. It is not reasonable to expect that you can make everybody happy. And so if we sit in that mode, and I hear so many organizations that are like, we want our people to be happy. No, you don't. No, you don't. You want them to be content because you're going to do something even to your most excited employees that makes them unhappy. And if you're constantly chasing people's happiness, you will be turning yourself into a pretzel just trying to make sure everybody's happy. When the deeper question is, what do you really want? As a leader, you want people to be able to show up and give 100% all the time and to feel like they can be rewarded, that they are a part, that they are valued, so that even when you have to make tough decisions or they don't get their way or you have to change benefits or vacation or whatever, you're not worried about whether or not people are happy. Somebody's going to be unhappy. But what you are is you are well aware that your folks understand who you are. They understand the vision. They understand how they fit into that, how they contribute to that, the value that they add to the overall goals of the organization. And so even if they don't like it, even if they are unhappy with the situation, they can at least get aligned or make a conscious decision that that one is a deal breaker for them. But if you're constantly chasing that happiness, right, you're never going to be able to, you're never going to be able to rest, because you're never going to be able to get there. It's just not possible for everyone to be 100% happy. But you're also going to begin to make decisions out of emotion of happiness. You're going to be reactive instead of proactive. You're going to be reactive instead of strategic. You're going to be reactive instead of understanding exactly where your outcome is, making a plan and having flexibility in the plan to be able to address after acquired information. Now, don't get me wrong. If you do something and 98% of your people are unhappy, maybe you missed something. I'm not saying dismiss happiness. What I'm saying is you're not chasing happiness. You are chasing goals and outcomes. You're making plans to have those outcomes and goals be achievable, improving your opportunity for success to have those goals and outcomes. And you want people to feel valued. You want them to feel content. You want them to feel some joy, right? But that's much more internal. You want them to be valued, because valued leads to contentment. Valued leads to contentment. And when people feel valued, they are much more likely to be able to stick with you, even when they are unhappy. And if they feel valued, they also feel like they have the opportunity to tell you they're not happy. They're discontent, right? They're discontented with something that's going on. And then you can address it. Because most of the time, that's why I say when people come and talk to me about I don't get paid enough money, I'm not paid enough money, I'm not making the kind of money I want to make, I put that in a little bubble and I put it somewhere else. Because there are a few people who are truly money driven, right? And you need to figure out who those are. There are people who are truly money driven. As long as you pay them, they are going to be ride or die. But the majority of people, money is not a satisfier. If you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, money, right, is not a satisfier. It can be something that can drive performance short term. But that's because someone can always go find some more money somewhere. I mean, they call them golden handcuffs at some of these organizations because they pay you so much money that you have to really think hard before you leave. And they feel like, well, we're paying them so much, there's no way they're going to leave. Keep thinking that. Because at some point, money might solve some surface issues, but at some point there's not enough money in the world for somebody to put up with something that is a deal breaker for them. There's not enough money in the world for somebody to tolerate being devalued, undervalued, mistreated, harassed, harmed in extreme cases. There's not enough money in the world. So even if they have to stay still for a minute until they can make a plan, they will not stay. So even your golden handcuffs are not guarantees. So it's not about happiness as a leader. It's about contentment. How do you make sure people feel valued? And how do you show up for your people from a grounding of contentment, general contentment, so that happiness, unhappiness scale may inform how you respond to something, but doesn't inform your behavior on a consistent basis. You need to let people know when you're unhappy. But if you're content, then your ability to do that varies. There was a situation, we were doing a huge implementation, and so I had divided everybody up into groups because I just couldn't do it on myself. I just couldn't. And even then, I mean, there was just stuff that in hindsight, I really wish I'd stayed harder on top of some things. I just didn't have the capacity to do it. And I remember having this one meeting that we had talked about. I'm sorry, guys, there's something, dust or something. We've been talking about something and we'd made a plan. Here's what's going to happen. I need you guys to follow up on this, and this. And so when we have our next meeting, let's move forward and know what's going on. And so we had our next meeting and I'm listening and I'm like, they didn't do what I asked them to do. And so finally, after listening, I said, well, the last time we talked, here's what was going to happen. Has that been done? Well, and then the things are, and I just got quiet. I just got really quiet. And at the end, I said, so I thought I was clear. Apparently not. So let me be clear. And then I was clear. And then we moved on to the next thing. And I called my colleague later on. And I said, was I unclear? And she said, absolutely not. She said, your silence spoke volumes. I'm like, okay. I said, because I thought we'd had this conversation like not just once, but multiple times. So it took all I had to just be silent in that moment. So I expressed my unhappiness, not with words, not with yelling and screaming, but by silence. And that's why they say, you know, when a woman gets quiet, that's when you need to get scared.
Yep.
Because if she's chit-chatting and she's trying to help you understand, and you're trying to explain, and she's still arguing. And it is true for me. If I'm still arguing and fighting and trying to make us understand and trying to get to a place where we're good, I'm still in it. When I'm quiet, I'm done. And there's nothing there at that point. There's nothing you can do. I'm done with that. I'm done with that. I'm just not gonna have the conversation anymore. Cause see, I tried. I listened to your perspective. Either you weren't listening about something happened, but I'm like, I'm done arguing, right? And I'm no longer unhappy. I'm not unhappy. I'm just done. And so if you always come out with this biting people all the time, every time you're unhappy, if you always come out yelling and screaming, or, you know, you got these swings where when you're really happy, you're like engaged and you're talking to people and you're, you know, that you have these completely different personas when you're happy and when you're unhappy. People aren't stupid. They learn that. Remember, someone is always watching. You teach people how to treat you. You teach people how to engage with you. And if when you're happy, you're really pleasant, and when you're unhappy, you are extremely unpleasant, they're going to do everything in their power to never make you unhappy. Again, that shiny apple that you're about to hand to your CEO may be full of worms, because you've been so ugly to people in your unhappy moments that they're not going to tell you there's worms in there, because see, no, that's painful for them. They would rather endure the pain of you getting surprised than that pain directly at them. And I've had leaders like that before, that they bit people in the butt so hard that there was no mechanism for them to be told the truth. They created a culture of yes people. People were afraid to say anything that was contrary to either their vision or their perspective, or even if the information said they were wrong, they were afraid to tell them they were wrong. They were afraid to tell the emperor she had no clothes, or he had no clothes. They were afraid. And so if you've got people that are so worried about whether or not you're happy as their leader, or even if you're a team member, right? You're not in the leadership position, but you're on a project and you're part of the team. If people are so worried about, oh, here he comes, he's happy, he's unhappy today, so we got to deal with that. Who made him unhappy? Who made her unhappy? Oh my God, here we go again, right? If they're so worried about that, again, it takes all the focus off the achievement of the goal, of the building of the relationship, because that's not genuine relationship building. That is pain abatement. That is, you know what? It is not worth my time and effort to have to deal with your attitude. So I'm just not. I'm just not. That's not leadership. That is self-focus. In some cases, that is selfish, right? So we've got to learn how to deal with our happiness and unhappiness, because it's reactive to our circumstances. And don't know if you ever heard this before, but it's not always about you. So maybe somebody needed to hear that today. It's not about you all the time, which means that everyone is not responsible for your happiness. You're responsible for your own contentment, your own joy, and whether or not you react to things in a way that is happy or unhappy. You're responsible for that. Now, there are things that are going to disappoint you. There are things that are not going to be the way you want it, of course. But your response is your responsibility. And your response informs those with whom you're interacting. That's the way it works. That's the way it works. You teach people how to treat you. And if you're in a leadership position and people are watching you, and when you're unhappy, you're just biting people all over the place. Or when you're unhappy, you just close your door, you're inaccessible. When you're unhappy, you're yelling script, whatever it is, people learn that. It's a learned behavior and they learn how to respond. Now, if you've got a village, and I encourage you guys, we talk about this, make sure you got your village. If you got a village, you'll have somebody come into that closed door and say, okay, what's up? Because see, here's what people are saying. Here's what people think. Here's what's happening. Here's how people are responding. I don't know if that's what you meant, but what's up? Because this is what you might get based on what you just did. Your village will tell you that. Your village will pull your coattails when needed. Your village doesn't care that you're unhappy. Your village cares about your success and your health and your safety. And so when you're doing something that is compromising any of those, they will let you know and support you to rectify the situation. That's what villagers do. That's what villagers do. So as you trying to decide how you're showing up today, right? For those of you, most people are already going to be at work. As you're deciding how you're showing up today, maybe you've just had an experience with somebody and you're like, ooh, I am so unhappy. Or maybe you've had to call the service department today. How did you respond? How did you interact? Are you going to let that external thing turn your whole day upside down? Right? I've got a tree right now that I need to have somebody come look at again. And I am trying to decide who that's going to be, because when I had somebody come out that I trusted, it was a third person that I trusted, because my palm tree I thought was dead because none of them had come back around the city. And I saw other people's palm trees back that weren't the same variety, but everybody else's was back. And this person said, no, if it's not back by now, then it's probably dead. When they cut the tree down, the tree was absolutely not dead. And I've seen others that were the same variety finally come back. They came back months later. I'm so hot about that. My heart just hurts because I don't cut down trees. I just don't. But this one was so big and so tall. Like, if something happens during hurricane season, this is either going to fall on my house, which, okay, fine. That's why I got insurance. But if it falls backwards, it's going to fall. It's so tall, it's going to fall on the neighbor's house. I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with that, right? Because it would fall on the neighbor's house either way, right? Behind me or on either side. That's how tall this tree is. I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. I need to make sure that it's healthy. And so I had someone that I vetted, that I trusted, who lied. So I'm salty, as you can tell, about this. Still, now the tree's gone. There's nothing I can do about it. But I'm salty because you lied to me, right? That external thing made me so unhappy, and still makes me unhappy when I think about it, as y'all can tell. And now I got another tree that even when I moved in, the tree people said, I don't know how much longer this was going to last. One, it's been damaged. But two, it's just not healthy, right? And I've been trying to limp it along and feed it because it's a big, beautiful tree. It's just not healthy. So as my brother was in town, and as he was leaving, I was like, what's going on with my tree? I'm seeing bark falling off all over the place. And he took his key and tried to kind of poke it, and the wood is soft. And I thought, oh. So I got to call a tree person. So then I get salty all over again, right? Because the experiences come up. Now I call somebody about that other tree and they lied. Who am I going to call this time? Because are they going to lie about the tree? Am I going to have to take the tree down? How do I put it? All of the stuff. But I also know that there is such a thing as rejuvenation, right? We can't keep everything forever. Things die, including trees, right? They just don't make it. And so now I will go back to someone else, because there's a couple of companies I've used now that I won't use again. So now I got to go find a third, fourth, fifth, and have a couple of people come out and look and just get an idea of what I need to do. Because I also want to replace this one, which, replacing trees is expensive, y'all.
Yes, it is.
It's really expensive. And especially if you replace it with one that is a slower growing, because that's what I'd want to do. I'd want to replace it again with another oak tree, which takes forever. But I'm like, dang, here we go again. So I could sit in that and be salty and unhappy and irritable and irritated and let that inform how I'm engaging with people. Or I can remember, this is home ownership. And I am fortunate to have a home. I am grateful and thankful that I have the ability to make this decision. And oh, by the way, that the tree hasn't already fallen on my house. And I love trees. Y'all know my trees, a tree is in my logo. I love trees. There's something about them for me that is just renewing and just spiritually grounding for me. So to think about losing another tree is just breaking my heart. It's making me unhappy.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
When you said that you were angry because you vetted the guy
Mm-hmm.
and he said he could do it, and then when he did it, it wasn't right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you more mad at you because you took the time to vet him and you trusted it, or are you mad that he said he could do it and couldn't do it?
You know what? It is 50-50, which is unusual for me because normally I'm more mad at me. because part of me was mad at me because I saw them get there, I talked to them, I saw them going up, and then I was on a call, right? I had a client call. And so I couldn't watch them because if I had seen it early, I'd have said, stop. I don't know if it'll ever come back, but we're not going to cut it all the way down because it's not dead. But I didn't catch it to the very end. So I'm mad at me because I didn't catch it early. But I'm really mad at them because he would have been able to see that it wasn't dead when he got up there. Should have, if he's an expert. 2, I'll be here till it's done. I don't know where he went. Probably when he realized the tree wasn't dead, that's why he took off. So it's a 50-50 at this point for me around that anger, because I did spend the time, I vetted them. I've had multiple people come out, all of those kind of things to do it the right way, and still did not get what I expected. And what's irritating about that is what it said was they just wanted the money. They just wanted the money. Yes. I mean, we're still in COVID. This happened several months ago, right? So we're still in COVID. People are hurting, and I get that. But don't lie.
Yeah.
Because see, now I got to give a different kind of review than I would have given.
Yeah.
Because I had to go, and the thing is, I had to go to a specialist because this was a palm tree that was really, I mean, it was stories high. So it had to be people who were trained and capable and insured to cut down trees that high. This wasn't just your normal little oak tree, right? This was multi-stories high, probably at the size of maybe 4 or 5 story building. I mean, it was huge. So it had to be a specialized tree trimming place. So of course, I paid for that too, right? So I'm seeking out specialists. That's the thing that makes me the angriest, is when I do everything in my power that I'm supposed to do and it still is jacked up. My understanding is 0. That's when I come out very unhappy, and you see my unhappy. My response to that is unhappy. And that happens a lot with service providers, right? Your phone company, your internet company, all that. I'm like, look, I'm not asking for anything extra. What I'm asking for is what I paid for. And my attitude, as my dad said, my attitude goes to 0 in a minute.
How do you channel that anger? Because you have a right to be angry because
Absolutely.
the person said they knew how to do something. As a leader, that frustrates me the most. I'd rather you tell me, I've never done this before, but I'm willing to try.
Tell me early. Yeah. Tell me early. I always told my teams, I'm like, look, here's what we're going to do. Here's the deadline. I know things happen. Just tell me early. Don't let me be surprised, because we can usually fix something. But don't wait till the deadline and say, oh, I'm not going to make it. Then my understanding is 0. And then we're going to have a whole different conversation. Because see, that's not okay.
Okay, that's good, because that goes back to, you said that if there are leaders and people are afraid to tell you something. Because I had people tell me, I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to get upset. And I'm like, no, I have said I want to know early so it can be corrected.
Exactly. Because we can fix just about anything. And even if we can't, as the leader, all the accountability, right? Responsibility rolls down, but accountability rolls up. So I'm the one that has to take that when it doesn't work, which is fine. I signed up for that when I got into a leadership position. I signed up for the accountability piece. That's the problem with a lot of leaders. A lot of leaders want the position. They don't want the accountability.
Pam Mays Jones said she's confused. Are you still mad, or are you choosing to forgive but not there yet?
Oh no, I'm still mad. I'm still mad. I am salty. Every time I think about it, I get angry all over here. Every time I walk out of my backyard and I see that tree stump, I get angry. Have I forgiven them? I've forgiven the guys that did the cutting because they're employees. They were doing what they were told to do. And they may be in a situation where they couldn't have come down to the guy and said, this tree isn't dead. Right. So I hold nothing against the guys who actually did the cutting. But that person who told me my tree was dead, I'm not there yet. God's still working on me because I'm not ready.
You forgive them, but you hold them accountable, and you have a recollection of what happened, because you did say now it changes the way you would do your recommendation.
Yes.
And people need to know that. That's what happened when we were doing some work here.
Yes.
It changed the way I can't recommend you.
I can't recommend you.
Yeah.
And I am big. I am really big on giving good reviews. If I get great service, I will give a great review because I think it's important. Not enough people get good information, right? We don't pump up people enough. It's like I paid for it, so I just expect you to be great. Okay, but people still have a choice.
Right.
They don't have a choice. They have a choice to just be mediocre. You can't say you didn't get what you wanted because they gave you what you wanted, but maybe they didn't give it with a smile. Maybe they gave it with an attitude, right? So people still have a choice. So when I get really great service or something happens really well, I always try to do that review because it's important. Mm-hmm. At the same time, when you don't, I will give that review too. So I try to be balanced. If it's good, I'm going to say something. If it's bad, I'm going to say something. Because I think it's important. But yeah, I'm still salty about that. I am. I have to admit it. I am still a work in progress because like I said, every time I think about it, I get irritated. Because he lied. Yeah. And then walked away. That was the bigger part. So for me, kind of like Jerry, your question, how people say, well, I didn't want you to be upset. I am mindful again that I don't have a poker face. So I try to manage my words and my tone when I'm upset. Because I know I can be biting. I know that I can be just as vicious and I can be just as sarcastic. I can be just as passive aggressive as the next person. Just because I choose not to do those things doesn't mean I can't. Because I am a person that listens actively. I'm also a person that people talk to a lot. So I have lots of ammunition. But the way I'm wired, you didn't tell me things or confide in me for me to use that against you, right? That's just not right. That is out of integrity for me, right? That's not about service. And so I choose not to use those things. And there are times when I'm going to call you on your crap. Now, my dad used to always say, you praise in public, you criticize in private. So if we have to have one of those deep conversations, I'm going to do my best to do that when it's just us. Even in corporate, I'm going to do that when it's just us. But you keep it up. And as the CEO once told me, you know what? Sometimes all you got to do is just bite one person publicly. Then all you got to do is bare your teeth. Every once in a while, you need to remind people what your expectations are. Every once in a while, you need to remind people that being mistreated is not going to be tolerated. Every once in a while, you need to remind people, look, when we make commitments, I am moving based on those expectations. So my expectation is that you meet your commitment too. And if not, there are going to be consequences to that because we are free to make choices. We are not free from the consequences of the choices we make. So if you're always worried about whether or not people are happy or not, you're going to be doing some stupid stuff just to keep people happy. Mm-hmm. And they are not going to be happy all the time. It is an impossible thing to do. And you create an environment where people are going to push you, especially those people who are really self-centered. If they know they can trigger you by saying they're unhappy and that you're going to turn yourself upside down to make them happy, they're going to use that. And then you find yourself just chasing your tail, trying to make sure they're unhappy because, oh my gosh, we can't lose them. Oh my gosh, I can't have anybody else leave my team. Oh my gosh, it's going to look so bad on me if they leave. No, sometimes you need to help somebody be successful somewhere else. Because if they are that unhappy, you know what? I understand. And you know what? You have got to be happy. So let's figure out how we're going to make that happen. And I mean that. I mean it. I'm not ugly about it. I'm not nasty. I'm like, this is not working. So what can we do to make it work? Because these other things aren't going to happen, which means you are going to continue to be unhappy. And that is not a state of being that either one of us can tolerate. So what are we going to do different? Right? That's what we do. But we also know that we have to be mindful of the environment that we're creating when all we do is react really loudly and publicly when we're extremely happy or extremely unhappy.
Hold on, we got a 911 question.
Yes.
She said, okay, so what tools can she suggest to get out of, which tools can she suggest to get past the anger? I am on fire and seeking God on how to not let it out of my mouth in a negative way. One thing the Lord reminded me of was to be quick to hear and slow to speak, to hear what the Spirit is saying. So one thing I'm working on perfecting it. Hold my tongue until I see my peace come.
Yes, that's a great question. So number one, the thing that you said, we have one mouth and two ears. One mouth and two ears. So when you are that angry, the first tool when you are that angry is do everything you can to walk away and take a minute. To take a minute. Because things that you say can't be returned, right? Once words are out of your mouth, you can't take those back. So if you are, and I've been there where you are just lit up. If you can find a way to, one, be that aware, be really, really self-aware to know that you're angry past the point of being reasonable, short circuit it, stop, step away. I've even told people on the phone, service people, I'm like, you know what? I am so angry. I'm about to have a coronary. I'm not going to let you do that to me. So I'm going to hang up and I'm going to call back later. And that's usually after I've been probably yelling and screaming and I cannot believe and give me a supervisor, all that kind of stuff. When it gets to that point, I'm self-aware enough that I just stop. I just stop because I'm like, what am I doing? Is there anything about this situation and my being this angry that serves me? Anything? Because I definitely don't want to have a stroke or a heart attack sitting here because I'm mad at them about something that is extremely irritating, but is absolutely not life-threatening. It's not. As angry as I am about that tree, that had nothing to do with my life. I'm still here. I'm still here, right? So the first thing is to be aware and then do everything in your power to just pause and walk away and come back. Come back later. That's the first tool. The second tool is begin to be discerning, as you said, really listen. Because sometimes what you're hearing is somebody who doesn't have an answer. They just don't know how to tell you that. They really are just not skilled enough. And that's when you say, you know what? Let me go talk to somebody else. Or you are not the person I need to be talking to about this. I got to find another way. So if you're listening, you can really determine, is this a can't or a won't? If it's a can't, then we might still have to have this really tough conversation. If it's, if it's a won't, we may have to have this tough conversation. If it's a can't, I'm just not talking to the right person. And why am I still having this conversation? Because you're not the right person. I know myself so well now that when I get on the phone, especially with kind of IT or technical service or anything like that, the first thing I say is, because I know these are the things that really send me in orbit. I've already turned it off and on. I've already reset it. I've already done all those things that are on your list 1 through 14. So I need you to start at number 15. If you can't start at number 15 because of the way they've trained you and the way they are going to manage your performance or say that you performed, I understand. Been in HR, I get that. I need you to connect me with the supervisor. No hard feelings. So I stop it in the beginning. In other words, I'm not going to let you take me through all this madness that's going to jack my nerves up.
Yeah.
So be aware, then listen to find out if it's a can't or a won't. If it's a can't, then try to find something else. Like I know they can't go to step number 15. So I'm giving them an out to just give me to a supervisor so they don't get upset and I don't get upset. If it's a won't, then you get to decide, am I just going to light this person up and have this conversation? And what is that going to serve me and serve them? Or am I just going to move on and get something else? I'm going to write the review. I'm going to make something else happen. Because if it's a won't, you're dealing with somebody who refuses to do what you need.
She said, this is the God Answered Prayer Show.
Oh, thank you.
Pam
You
Jones.
just made my day, Pam.
I figured it would. That's Pam May Jones said that.
Thank you. Y'all just made my day. Y'all just made my day. Because I always say a prayer. I always say a prayer before I come into the studio that I hear all the priests say, right? Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be always acceptable in thy sight. Let whoever needs to hear this message, hear it today. Oh. So thank you. Thank you for that. That is that makes me want to cry. I really appreciate that. Because that tells me I'm in the right place, doing the right thing. So Take that. I know, Jerry. We gonna be up in here bawling, you know, because if somebody cries, I cry. You don't cry, as Dolly Parton says, don't cry in my presence. You don't cry alone in my presence. So thank you for that. And take that time. Oh, we got to do shout outs. Take that time. Really take that time to pause. And I act like I'm expert at this. Y'all know we speak the truth on this show. I still have my moments where I am lighting folks up and I have to catch myself and say, this little girl or this little boy is doing what they told him to do. Laura, stop. Catch yourself. Stop. Either call back or just say, you know what? It's good. I know you're only doing what you can do. Please get me to a supervisor. Well, okay. You know what? I get it. Please, I want a supervisor. Please, I want a supervisor. Just get me to a supervisor.
Is there a time that you can light them up, though? Because if they're acting as if they know how to do something they don't know how to do.
You can. I think the difference is there's that lighting folks up out of your own unhappiness and anger that nobody's hearing that, right? That's that. Just like with parents. If you're yelling and screaming all the time, your kids aren't hearing you anymore. They're like, oh, that's them. But when you get quiet, because you can light somebody up quiet. Just like that time I said, was I unclear? Because I thought I was clear. And this is what needs to happen. I didn't have to say anything. I didn't have to yell. I didn't have to scream. In fact, that quiet said more in lighting somebody up than screaming. So you don't have to be loud to light somebody up. You just got to be clear.
Let's go right here. When you said about if you have yes men and all of that, and they're scared to approach you, scared to, but you said that you asked somebody, was I not clear?
Yeah.
And when I said, because I'll say, I'd rather you tell me now if you can't do it.
Yes.
Than to do it. And then they say, I didn't tell you because I was going to be afraid that you would be mad. How do you handle that situation? Because you said beforehand, if you don't tell me now, you don't know how to do it. That's going to bother me.
What I've done is, one, I always try to set up at the very beginning with anybody I work with who works for me or who I work for. I'm like, look, let's just set this. We will have deadlines. Things happen. I will always give you a heads up if something's going to be. And I ask the same of my people. Everybody makes a mistake. So you'll get one chance, right? Somebody said, I was afraid. I didn't tell you. I said, okay, remember this meeting. This is how I set it up. So here's what we're going to try to fix this. Here's what we're going to do. But I'm putting you on notice. I don't do surprises. So the next time something like this comes up, then it becomes a performance issue. Because that tells me it wasn't that you were surprised, it's that you waited to the last minute. You waited to the last minute. It's not that it couldn't be done. It's that you waited and didn't manage your time well. So I always give somebody at least one chance, right? Everybody deserves a second chance at bat, right? But I'm watching your behavior, right? Listening actively. I'm listening to your words, but I'm watching your behavior. What are you really doing? And then I respond. Yeah.
We got
shout outs.
We got Chicago in the building. We got Kansas City, Missouri. Philadelphia is in the building. San Antonio is in the building. St. Louis. I don't want to miss Houston because they're triple the numbers today.
Yay,
Houston is in the building. New York is in the building. Pittsburgh, Atlanta is in the building. Around the world, we got Helsinki. Yay. Big time, triple in the numbers on today.
Hey,
Hamburg
Helsinki
is in the building.
Yeah.
Cole.
Yes, Cole.
Cole is in the building. Monterey is in the building. Changwon.
Yeah,
is in the building.
that is Malaysia. Hey, Malaysia.
Buenos Aires is in the building.
Argentina, that's a new.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, Argentina.
I thought I said it wrong.
You did. Okay. No, you're good.
Okay, thank you. Let me see. It threw me off.
Right.
And then I told you. Okay, listen. You got Finland in the building. Yes. Germany's in the building. France is in the building. Mexico, Malaysia, United Kingdom, Brazil, Israel, Ireland, and Puerto Rico.
Love it. Y'all, thank you. Welcome, Argentina, Buenos Aires. Welcome to the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show on KCOH TV, The Boost, the historic station on the corner of Alameda and Wichita in Houston, Texas, USA.
And let's do something different that I've never done before, too. With our Amazon Alexa listeners, would you at some point, when you get a chance, send us an email at KCOH TV, The Boost at Gmail, and let us know where you're listening from, because we can't see the cities and states where you're from on Amazon. And so we want to get that information from you, if you would do that for us.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yes, please do, because I like to give a shout out every week of all you guys that are here and tuning in around the world, because I really appreciate it. I know you have a choice. You have a choice of who you listen to and where you go and how you spend your time. And the fact that you decided to spend it with me, I do not take that for granted. That is part of my joy and part of my contentment, that I know if I continue to show up and I continue to live into this purpose and lean in, even in those days when I am unhappy, unfocused, I remain content and joyful because I get to spend this time with you. And I know that at some point there's somewhere, somebody who is getting a message I needed to hear, like Pam this morning. And thank you for sharing that, because that makes a difference to know that I'm making an impact.
Now, here's a deep question she asked.
Yeah.
She said, when it's your mom that is the culprit, then what? And that's, I personally don't like working with friends or relatives for a reason.
I tell people when I'm coaching people, I'm like, stop saying, we're like family. The company's like family, but stop saying that. Stop saying that. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is because of this question right here. When you really say, no, we treat everybody like family, that means you are unable or unwilling to have difficult conversations. That means you tolerate things that you might not otherwise tolerate if somebody that weren't family, right? If you think about your family gatherings, you're like, oh, that's just Uncle Joe. That's just Aunt Jane. That's just, you dismiss behavior that's unacceptable because it's family. Because you just walk away. You got to love them anyway because they're family, right? You just got to deal with them. If it's someone that is close to you, and again, I am not a therapist and I'm not claiming to be. I have a therapist, right? I'm not claiming to be one. My perspective is this. You have to decide where that relationship fits for you. And you do have to protect you. So sometimes, even for family, close family, that means, I just don't spend that time. I'm not going to be going to lunch. I'm not going to be showing up at events. I'm not going to spend my energy. Remember, you've got time, energy, and money. And time is not renewable. Time is not renewable. So if you feel like you can't really repair a relationship or bring it into a place where it is satisfying or healthy for both of you, that may be one of those relationships where you just have to love from afar. Yeah. To love from afar. You don't love them any less, but that drama, that all that stuff that takes you out of places you need to be able to live into your purpose, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You can love people from a distance. You can respect people from a distance. Because sometimes the easiest way to respect them is from a distance. Because that close proximity can lead to disrespectful behavior on both parts. That would be my 2 cents.
Here's another one. It says, oh my God, I had someone to tell me they can do this thing is jumping. I had someone to tell me they can do a major work for me, and they came to me and offered the sponsorship, but they turned around and did not deliver and had every reason why they couldn't. Mm-hmm. Okay, but I didn't ask for it. They offered. Now I have business offering to put me out there in sponsorship, but I have no materials because it hasn't been delivered. Mm-hmm. I was upset, then hurt, now mad.
Yep. Yes, that happens a lot too. And here's what I would say in business. You always, and we talked about this very early, right? It's business until it's not. It's understood until it's not. So if you don't have anything written, yes, there's such a thing legally as an oral agreement, right? But that's what happens when you don't do your business because you're giving someone a chance, or because, well, I know them, I've known them forever. You know what? Someone you've known forever who really wants to help you is not going to be offended when you're like, okay, and here's a contract that draws up what we said we were going to do for each other. Because it's business. Yes, you're doing it with someone you love. You may even be doing it with family, but it's business. And everything's okay until it's not. Everything's okay until it's not. Oh, yay. John Harris listening from Denham Springs.
Good.
Yes. Love that. Please, give yourself, because you can be angry, because I'd be angry too. Because don't tell me you're going to do something and then I count on you and you don't show up. Because see, now you're throwing me off. You're throwing everything off. But and my trust is gone.
Even if it's free, right?
Even if it's free.
To do an acts in kind
Even if it's free. Because here's the thing. It's not about the fact that it's free. It's about the fact that you made a commitment to me that I'm counting on. Because my assumption is if you're offering it to me for free, you want to offer it to me. Mm-hmm. I didn't ask you for it. And I didn't ask you to do it for free. You made an offer. Mm-hmm. And so if you made an offer, please follow through in your offer. And again, if something happens, tell me early so I can make other arrangements. Because again, I'm not unreasonable. Life happens, things happen, but you can't come to me last minute and say, oh, I know you needed this by Tuesday. And you know what? It's now Monday night and it's just not going to happen. Oh, no, 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 no. No, no, no. Because you wouldn't want me doing that to you. So you have every right to be angry. I suggest as much as possible that you guys get things in email, something that you about what you agreed to. Even if it's not some kind of formal contract, have something in writing that documents the agreement. So that when it doesn't happen, you at least have some kind of recourse if you have to go there. And that's another place where you're like, you know what? I can't recommend you. I can't refer you. And when you come and ask me, hey, can you, somebody wants them, can you, I absolutely cannot. Because remember, this is how we work together. So I cannot refer you. Love you, can't refer you.
You know, did you ever used to watch Jerry Lewis telethon?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I used to call as a little girl, call there to donate something because I wanted to see my name on the screen or
right.
And I wouldn't donate.
Right.
I just want to be Hollywood. But that's how some people will do. They will say they will donate something, even with the radio station, and then I'll get excited and maybe give them a shout out.
Yes.
And it doesn't happen.
Yes.
So in that chat, I stopped doing that because you feel guilty to go and say they didn't give me what they said they were going to give me, even if it was free. So you're saying even now, when people make a pledge or an offer of donation, get that in writing as well.
Yeah, I'm just saying, just do it, or wait till you get it to do your part of it. Yeah. Wait till you get it in hand, right? Wait till you get it. And you don't have to put people on blast, but you also don't have to refer. So I'm not necessarily going to blast you. I'm not just, you notice I didn't say the name of this company. I'm not blasting them because I'm taking care of that in the way it really impacts them, which is through reviews.
Girl, who is it? Let's get
I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you. So, but that's the kind of thing. Where can you make the biggest impact? Not that I'm trying to bring his business down, but people need to understand that's not okay. It's not okay. So, happy Tuesday, y'all. All right. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Catch me on Fireside Thursday, 7 p.m. Go to firesidechat.com/Laurel Rutledge. It's a live show as well. You can engage, interact, jump on the stage, ask your questions, all that kind of stuff. And so go there, go now so you can get access early. I have a guest on Thursday, Ash Merchant. You'll see all the postings start to happen. So join me on Fireside, and the podcast drops tomorrow morning.
If you're not on Apple, do what?
Oh, if you're not on Apple, because it's iOS only still right now. If it's not on Apple, you can go to the firesidechat.com and usually just listen to shows. You won't be able to engage, but you can listen. Or you can catch the simulcast on my YouTube channel, which is called The Rutledge Perspective. So you can catch that at the same time. All right. Take care. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see you next week, Tuesday. Bye.
Thank you, guys.